What's a good age to get your child into role playing games? Based on my next guest, as early as possible. Starting out as casual bedtime stories, they evolved into full on adventures over time. You may be familiar with the DM tips from the 4, 5, 6, or 7-year old. Those memes you've seen out there? I talked with their father about the creativity and imagination of children and role playing games. Can't wait for you to meet Daniel. That interview starts now. Hey Daniel, how are you?
Good, Mike. How are you doing today?
Very good. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah.
You have been part of my Twitterverse for a long time. Your child is probably one of the more prolific DM thinkers of our time, and they are currently 7 years old.
7 years old. Yeah.
I started following them when they were 5 years old. So pretty
I
awesome.
first started posting stuff from him when he was 4. So it goes back a long ways.
Yeah, yeah. I guess I was late to the game. So that was part of my reason for bringing you on was because of that. I've enjoyed your stuff for a long time, and I was like, I should just really have you on and chat about it. But you have a lot more than just the quippy DM hot takes that your child provides. You also have a website with a whole bunch of different resources on them. One of them being various randomizers and some music, which is hysterical, and blog and all this other really good stuff. How'd you get started with this?
Well, I actually started. I joined Twitter because I had written some D&D rap songs and I wanted to promote them. That's where it all started. I'd written a couple songs. Well, one was a Shadowrun song, and the other one was about Dungeons and Dragons, and the frustrations of being a cleric. And I thought I'll get on Twitter, make an account, and I'll start promoting that music.
Sure.
Um, and it didn't really go anywhere. I still had those 2 songs out there. That I've written one since then. I have a whole bunch more written that I just haven't recorded.
Mhm.
Um, I get really excited about starting something and then never seem to finish it. I think that kind of is common amongst a bunch of people. But
Yeah.
so I probably got 20 songs that I have written, and I just never recorded them or finished recording them or anything of the sort. But when my son started playing Dungeons and Dragons and started giving me dungeon mastering ideas and tips and plot hooks, I started posting those, and that really took off. So that's where that came from. And then I created the Instagram, I created the website, and for both the music and his blog now that he writes. So
So he
he
writes
writes,
that.
yeah, he writes the blog. So yeah, so um, all of the improve your game is kind of what he calls it, and it's set up for him to give 20 tips or whatever on improving your game in a certain area, whether
Mhm.
it's creating scarier encounters or um, maybe exploration, improving your exploration in your game, things of that sort. So
Yeah, some of these things, they sound obvious when you read them, but they're kind of ground shaking. You're like, why
yeah,
didn't I think about that? I mean, because some of them are very simple concepts that a lot of times veterans like us forget. What are
no
some of your
doubt.
favorites?
I think my favorite things he does is he doesn't know all the details of the rules.
Mhm.
He knows most of them. He actually has a pretty good grasp of them, but he's not bound by them like I am. As an old time player, I've been playing since 1984, maybe
Mhm.
sometime in that frame time. And the rules are important to me. They've always been this kind of strict rule of how things work, and this is the game, and I bend them when it's needed, and I change them when I want to homebrew them. But he doesn't even consider them a framework practically. I mean, so he's like, well, why can't we make magic items that just imitate feats so that my one character, this adventure, can have 10 feats at once if he has all these different magic items? Or why can't I make a feat that imitates a spell and just things of that sort that I don't think about
Mhm.
um, in my way of thinking of a game, and he has this whole new concept of how the game should be run. And of course, his monsters are absolutely phenomenal. Where he creates these weird and pretty horrific monsters that he comes up with. The most famous one he has is the spider dragon he created about a year and a half ago or so. It was a dragon that has these 8 legs and fangs and pincers, and it breathes out a breath of miniature spiders
Yeah.
that basically hit you and cover you with spiders. And so that is a horrific as a dad. I'm sitting there playing with him, and I had to face this monster. And immediately I wrote all the down the stats and used with my other players, so that they can experience the things he creates as well. And so his monsters are a lot of fun. Have a blast, see what new things he's going to create. And we're actually in the process right now. I don't know if I'll ever finish it or not, but he's written a small monster guide that has 10 different monsters in it that he's created.
Mhm.
And so I'm trying to publish that, and maybe put it on DM's Guild or something of that sort, and get it out there so that people can see some of the fun monsters he's come up with.
That's a lot of fun. I mean, and also for arachnophobes, terrifying.
Definitely. Hopefully you're not a arachnophobe, and I didn't just scare you in that way. I apologize if you are.
Yeah, right. I'll have to put a warning before that.
Yeah,
So this is something that was born out of you playing D&D with your son and at
yeah.
a fairly early age.
Correct.
How
Yeah.
did you
Very.
start that process?
Well, so my wife and I play D&D every day. So when he was an infant, he basically heard us playing D&D. I'd come home from work, and it was our entertainment. We didn't really do um, movies or television or anything else. I'd just come home from work, we'd eat dinner, and we'd play D&D until it's time to go to bed. We had a blast. She's played the same character for 24 years now. Um, and the adventures of that character are part of our family practically at this point. And so my son, at age 2, he wanted to make a character because he'd been hearing us play D&D all this time. Um, and he wanted to play. And so we made up a character. Sir Tyson was his name. He was a knight. Um, he was extremely old, 18. Yeah, my son. And he just wanted them to be really tall, which was like an inch taller than me, which isn't very tall, 5'10". And he wanted him to be have a big sword. And so we made this character up. And we didn't really play. We just made this character up together. And then I told him stories like at bedtime about his character.
Mhm.
And so we started playing this where I tell him the story. His character had a squire that
Mhm.
was a little squire named Gruff, who was a kid who became my son's favorite character in the stories. Um, and together they went on these adventures, and I just tell stories every day about them. After a little while, I started asking him, I said, "So what do you think Sir Tyson and Gruff would do?" And then he'd give me his response, and
Mhm.
I'd had that happen, and we'd go on from there. And then a little later, he was still probably 2 at this time. I'd be like, "So what do you think they'd do?" He'd tell me, and then we'd roll to see if it was successful. Um, and at that point, we're pretty much playing D&D. I mean,
Sure.
and he's telling me what he's gonna do, and I'm telling him if it's what to roll, and if he rolls high, he succeeds. If he rolls low, at that age, it was success with some problems
Sure.
normally. We had a blast doing that. We did that for a long time, and then COVID hit, and my friends from Pennsylvania that I grew up with, my high school buddies that I played D&D with when I was a kid, um, and I started a Zoom D&D game. We thought we'd do a campaign, and my son sat on my lap for that first session, and he just watched, and he loved it. And so the second session, he wanted to make a character, and so I was like, "Okay, we'll make a pixie paladin. That way, it could be a fake character, he could come and go as he wanted.
Mhm.
If he wasn't gonna play much, he didn't have to be there. If he wanted to show up 10 sessions later, he could." Um, and he played that paladin every session, every game, sat right beside me playing his character, and loved it. And so we had a game last night. We still play with this same group, the 3 of us. We've gone through several campaigns now, but my 2 buddies and I and my son play together. So it's a blast. And he's gotten the chance to know my friends from high school through this. It's been so much fun. Um, and so that's kind of how it got started. Um, at age 4, he started running games for me. He wanted to be in
As one
charge.
does.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. He just like, I wanna tell the story. I don't want you to tell it anymore. I wanna tell it." And so, at that point, he was telling the story, and I was running characters. And he still didn't understand the rules, like, "What should you roll for this?" And I'd tell him at that point what I should roll, and I kinda help him, but he came up with all the plots and all the fun games we had. Um, his first, I think his first game about Twitter, he had a dream about some ogres running a food truck,
Mhm.
and he wanted to post it. He wanted me to post that, and I thought it was a great story. And so we played this game, and then we posted about it, and it got some pretty good success. And so we just kept doing it. I just
Mhm.
kept telling the stories about things he comes up with, and it's been a blast. I mean, we've had so much fun.
It's amazing what happens because again, you and I are bound by rules, and especially
Yeah,
if you started back in the AD&D first edition era, it was very rule heavy, very, sacrosanct,
definitely.
I mean, you would lose experience points for changing alignments back then. I
Yes.
mean, it was
Yes.
pretty hefty. But to have someone that is unburdened by that knowledge
Yeah.
create content is a magical thing, and
It really is. Yeah, I agree.
it's demonstrated by everything that you post, because it's with this reckless imagination that is knows no bounds and is absolutely freeing and makes guys like you and me really scratch our heads and think, "Why are we doing this?"
Exactly. And I think that all the time. Like, why didn't I think of that? That's such an easy idea to think about, but it never once crossed my mind. And so,
Well, what a great parenting experience. I mean, I have to
yeah.
give you kudos for that
Well,
because,
thank you.
just starting that out as a storytelling adventure, which is a lot of times we forget that's what D&D or role playing games in general
Oh,
are.
definitely.
But to bring that in as a nighttime story time situation and it evolves into what it is now, that is impressive and kudos to you.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been definitely something that I wouldn't trade for anything. It's been a bonding experience for us. We play almost every day. Um, we have 4 or 5 campaigns together, some with other people, some with just me, some with his mother and me. And so we have a chance to play all these different games. It's just so much fun to watch his imagination and see what he comes up with. And it's interesting, as a child, um, at 4, his imagination was even better than it is now. So, it was just out there because it wasn't bound by anything, and now he's kind of grown up a little bit more. I'm not grown up, but he's gotten older, he's watched more media, he's
Mm,
more kind of bound by things, he's seen Star Wars and Lord of the
sure.
Rings and things of that sort, and so those things shape his ideas now, but when he was 4, there was nothing of that to that extent shaping his mind, and it was boundless. It was
Mm,
amazing to watch.
yeah.
And so it is a little sad for me sometimes to see how it's changed.
Hmm.
Um, but of course, I mean, his ideas are still amazing, and I still love playing D&D with him. He's great.
Yeah,
And now,
absolutely.
and now he's learning about the actual history of the game. So, like, we have a campaign right now where I have a paladin that's gone into the ninth level of hell to fight Asmodeus, and or Asmodeus, or however it's said. I'm not
Hmm.
sure,
Sure.
but and he's learning about the different characters and the NPCs and the monsters and lore and the history, and that's fun because he really gets into it. So
Yeah, that's one of the things. I mean, just as a quick caveat, when you look at the monster manuals of old, and I'm not harking on the old stuff,
yeah,
but they had a lot more information about the monsters in there. They had their
oh yeah, definitely.
ecology and their habitat and all this other stuff. So when you read about that, you could really formulate, an idea of why these things would be where they're at.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. Um, And, I don't know if they've cut that lore out for a certain reason or not, but
Mm,
it was definitely useful for me as a child. I mean, when I was running games for my friends as a 10-year-old, I mean, it was important to know for me, the history of Demogorgon or whatever it might be. It was important.
sure,
And
absolutely.
so
Well, at least those resources are still out there if you
yeah,
need
they
them,
are. They are. Yeah.
so those are all good things. So the website not only has, information, it has a blog, but you have some randomizers on there, which I absolutely love, and you created them out of a, necessity that you found. Why don't you tell me about those?
So I started creating these random generators. The website is a website called Perchance. It is amazing for making random generators. I started making them because I needed quick reference things when my players would ask me, "So what's the name of the pirate ship, for example, or what's the name of the book on the shelf, or what do I find it?" And I didn't know. Normally with NPC names, I'm pretty good. I can make something up or something of the sort. And most of my games are improv. I don't do much in the way of planning.
Mhm,
And so a few randomizers to create a good book name or a good pirate ship name or poisons and you find an assassin, what kind of poison is it type thing. They always seem to ask the questions that I don't know the answer to. So I have these generators that I can just pull up before my game, during my game, and let them know exactly what the name of the book is they found, or exactly who the captain of this pirate ship is. So it really helps me out a lot to just think of that.
yeah, especially if you're improvising like a lot of us are, we're all tap dancing in one
Yeah.
way, shape, or form, but a lot of times those things can actually spur your creativity and create something else. So I love the
Definitely.
wild magic table. I think it's
Yeah.
fantastic. It's far
Thank
more
you.
fun than, looking at a chart. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's one button. You don't have to worry about looking through it. You just hit the button. If you don't like it, you can hit it again and do another one.
Sure,
Um,
yeah, I mean, what
uh,
the heck? And then, because all this started with your music, you do have your music up there,
Yeah,
and,
yeah,
that's a lot of fun too.
yeah. Yeah, the music's, streaming on Spotify or any place, Amazon Music, Apple, whatever, and so you can always find it there. But I just have 3 songs, and they're a lot of fun. I enjoy it. I've been rapping in my head as a rapper since I was a kid. I loved it, hearing the first, early raps. Um, but I was never very good at it. But, I just kept trying and kept having fun, and I enjoyed rapping
Right.
for the nerd rap. It was definitely a different feel to it.
Well,
So
you just posted something that's pretty impressive. 44,000 streams, 2,500 listeners, 2.3 thousand hours listened to across
yeah.
85 countries. So I'd say that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always surprised. Like, it's between 500 and 1,000 listeners per month, and so people actually want to hear it. So I'm always excited about it. I have some people that think it's great and it's fun.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
and so, if you can bring some joy or laughter to someone's life with a D&D rap song that's making them smile, that's what it's all about. So,
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I love everything you're doing. I think you're
well, thank you.
fantastic. I think your son is very creative and will be uh, DMing at Gen Con any day now.
Yeah,
And kudos to you for everything you've done with him and
thank
your
you.
family structure. I wish I played D&D every day. That would have been awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. My wife and I would play so much time, and now my son and I just joined it as well. My wife, we have a Star Wars campaign that we play every day at lunch together, so it's a lot of fun to do that.
Well,
We
you know what they
just
say, the family that games together.
That's right. That's right.
Well, Daniel, I appreciate you coming on and best of
Yeah,
luck to you and your son and your family. I'm
well,
so
thank you.
heartened to hear all these amazing things that you're doing together through games. And I
Well,
wish you the
thank you.
best of luck.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much, Mike.